So, like, how well do you think being able to draw, whether it's just drawing on paper, painting, or whatever kind of art form that takes, and then translating that to tattooing, how seamless can that be, or can't it be?
It's hard. It's definitely hard. There's some mediums where there's certain tricks and things that you can learn from every medium, whether it's painting, color pencils, watercolor. Like a lot of those have certain techniques that you could kind of cross over. It depends on your tattoo style, really.
Yeah.
But like for me, I work a lot. I like working a lot in color pencil, and there's certain techniques that I can use in color pencil that I see transfer over to my tattooing. Like, okay, the way I cross hatch these colors together, I kind of do the same thing whenever I go to color or tattoo and stuff like that. So I can see it, but it's its own challenge. It's like learning another medium. You can't do certain tricks with watercolor that you could do with oil. There may be like a little bit of crossover, but they're different mediums. So you still have that struggle
Yeah.
with it. And like I say, every time you can't get comfortable tattooing and thinking, "Ugh, I know everything, I'm fucking dope." You know what I mean? Because every tattoo, I could sit down and go, "Oh my God, this tattoo is going to be easy. I'm going to knock this out in 20 minutes." And 40 minutes later, you're like, "Oh, what the heck's going on?" You know what I mean? Every skin is different. People are different. You could be outside in the sun all day, so your skin's like tougher. So the minute I go to, it's not going to go in as smooth as it would on somebody else who's like lighter skin, never outside all the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's every tattoo is a damn challenge.
So when you had first started, like, what were the techniques that you, like, no shit, had to get down first? Like, if you couldn't get the basic, like, A through C, I mean, you're not going to really go too far.
Oh, they're the simple ones, the ones you always think of. It's like lining, coloring, and shading.
Yeah.
And the quality of that, how well you lay that line work in, make sure that you got like the proper depth going so that tattoo is not going to fall out. It's not going to be too deep. It's going to last good. Your shading, you need to learn because you don't want it to be too dark. If it's too light in a couple of years, like none of that's going to be there. The coloring, it's going to be patchy. It could be, so those are your foundations you're going to build off of.
Yeah.
It's like having a clay statue. You got to start with that wire frame, and that's pretty much what everything in tattoo is based off of, those three things.
Right.
Your lining, your shading, your coloring, because that is going to determine how everything comes out.
Yeah. So, like, because I don't have any history in art, like, whatsoever. I can barely, like, draw stick figures when I was a kid. So, like, what's your method of approaching a tattoo all the way up to, like, applying it? I know every tattoo is different, every skin is different, but, like, I mean, you're using needles into skin, and that's so much different than a pen on a paper. It's like, how would you how would you approach mine? I guess.
Like leading up to putting it on the skin. I mean, even then, it's just it's designing it. It's all drawing it, making sure that it's going to be readable as a design. Say like with one of your pieces, because they came from a comic book image. So I can replicate that image exactly like it is on the page, but it doesn't mean that it's going to heal that way or look that way over time. So as I'm redrawing it, I need to make sure in the back of my mind, is this going to work as a tattoo? Is this line work going to hold up? Are these color values going to stay, or is they just going to bleed together over time or just disappear? Like, some artists, crazy heavy hatch work, so even inking. And I've learned over time trying to replicate comic book art a couple of times. Like, not all the time is that going to work. Over time, it's just going to become just a big dark mess over years.
Right.
So you need to make sure how it's going to translate onto the skin.
Yeah.
So no matter what, I have it in the back of my head, how I'm going to work this. Make sure my lines are clean. Make sure my blacks are really going to be solid. Have either a smooth blend into the color or have a clear defined style. So everything looks good from far, and everything's going to look good 10 years down the line.
Yeah.
Which is one of the hardest things, because you got to tell people, because sometimes people want little things that are highly detailed. And you have to tell them, like in a few years, it's not going to be good. I've had people that get quotes, like Bible quotes and stuff, and I've seen them now whenever they come back in to get tattooed, and sometimes you can't even read it, no matter how clean I did it, but it's just because of how small it is, and that ink spreads over time. So it's one of those things, bigger is always better. And it's true. It's true. That's why you see some of the traditional artists, that's almost the best way to go. That's why you see some of these old military people from the 30s and 40s, and you look at their tattoos, and even if that skin's still wrinkled and even if it's still kind of blurry, you can still read it because that solid line, those solid colors, they last the longest. They're just clear and legible.
Well, you bring up a good point with the old school tattoos holding so well, and now with like social media and like the Instagram, and you bring up like people getting the smaller tattoos, the cute little tattoos. How much of an influence do you think like social media trends have had on like the type of requests that you get, and even like the clientele that come in? Do you feel that affecting it a lot?
Oh yeah, huge. Tattooing, it's no different than anything else. Whether it's clothing, whether it's music, it's still subject to trends. And I've been in this and paying attention to tattoos since the mid-90s, so I've seen those trends kind of go up and down. I've dealt with them in my career. And you see, and once the internet became available, and it's not just tattoo magazines, it's not just flash off the walls, you start running into Google Images. You start running into, once Pinterest became a thing, then it's not just images, it's what's popular images, you know what I mean? So somebody's going to be like, oh my God, look at these cute little hearts. Instead of being like, I saw somebody walking down the street and they had this cute little tattoo. Now you can go online and look, and then here they all are. Here's this infinity loop. Here's this feather. You know what I mean? Here's this dream catcher.
The dandelion breaking off into butterflies.
Yeah. Here they are. There's hundreds and hundreds of pictures of them.
Yeah.
And so it definitely changed it, because now all of a sudden what could have just been a popular image, whether say like in the early 2000s, the butterfly and tribal on the lower back, where it was just like a college girl thing, because they were all going to school together, and they're like, oh my God, that's so cute. Now you could go online, you see all this stuff, so everybody can be like, oh, that's so cute, I want that, that's perfect,
Yeah.
And used to laugh all the time, because when you're driving and you see that stuff like on the back of window decals and stuff, whether it's like the infinity turning into birds and stuff like that, and you go, oh look, there's that tattoo design.
That's funny.
Because it's not just limited to skin, people are putting it on their cars.
So how, just on that specific space, how painful is the lower back? Because I'd imagine that is not fun.
It's not a fun spot. The lower back sucks.
Yeah.
There has been rare people that I've ever tattooed their lower back that they've taken it and been like, oh, that's nothing. It's been a pretty intense piece for a lot of people. Some reason that's just, there's a lot of nerves going on back there.
Well, because I feel like, because again, I can never speak like into the mind of a tattoo artist, but like stuff like the super trendy spots, the lower back, especially in women, like the lower back, the ankle, the wrist, even like behind the ear. You see someone come in, let's say it's like a young male or female, 18, 19, 20-year-old first tattoo, and they say, hey, I want my first tattoo like on my ribs, right? Do you ever advise them like, hey, this is gonna fucking hurt? Maybe you're not anticipating what you should be. No,
luckily, I mean, I wish I had done it when I was younger. I really do. I really wish I'd have did it when I was younger. But, those spots, it's funny that the popular spots are the most painful spots. Whether it's, like you said, the wrist, the top of the foot, your ribs, your torso, your lower back. Like, these are all not fun spots. When you're young, your pain tolerance is a lot better.
Yeah.
As compared to when you're old, because I'm at the point now where I have nothing but painful spots left, and they suck. But no, most of the time it's just telling people, just breathe. This is going to suck a little bit. Most of the time we build it up in our head so much more than it actually is, though. Then whenever it starts, it's like, oh, okay, I was expecting worse.
Right.
So it's good. So even if it sucks, it's still not as bad as what you're imagining in your head. It's mostly just telling people, breathe, relax, don't move.